Star Trek, directed by J.J. Abrams, the second big movie of the summer movie season. Now, I was a little disappointed with Wolverine. I ended up giving it 2.5 stars out of 4. It was still okay, but I really, really, really wanted a little bit more. No, scratch that, a good deal more from Wolverine. So, now we get to Star Trek, which I'm not a Trekker, and I've really only seen maybe one episode of Star Trek, and I don't even know what series that was because I saw it way back when I was a little kid, and it's just not been something that I grew up with. I've never been a big watcher of TV series, and especially since Star Trek, by the time that I was of age to want to watch it, I believe Enterprise or Deep Space Nine was the only one that was on, running actively. And this one is obviously based off the original series. And so I was never really able to watch any Star Trek before seeing this movie. I really just loved the cast. I loved the first trailer. I loved the first teaser that was way back in, I believe it was in the middle of '08, because it was supposed to come out Christmas, but then they ended up postponing it because of the writer's strike. So I really love the director, J.J. Abrams, and the producer, Damon Lindelof, and their crew and the Bad Robot production company. They did Cloverfield. They, of course, are the creators of the TV shows Alias and Lost, Lost being probably my favorite TV show of all time. So pretty much, I was just really excited to see them bring something that I know they love and essentially reimagine it. Now, this isn't like a reimagining, this isn't a remake. This takes place in an alternate timeline from the original series. It's got all the same characters, but essentially the main villain, Nero, he is an evil Romulan who goes back in time to destroy Spock's home world because he holds Spock responsible for the destruction of his home world 100-and-something years into the future. And the fact that he goes back in time starts this whole chain of events that creates an alternate timeline where essentially the origins of all of the Enterprise crew are different. At least I assume that they're different. And it does this so Abrams can have a greater creative control over the story. And essentially, this really is an introductory movie to what should become a new franchise of Star Trek movies. And this is definitely the opening movie that we should have had last week. It's action-packed, great visual effects. The character development is really good, in at least Kirk and Spock. And I also really like the Anton Yelchin's Chekhov. He's hilarious. Simon Pegg is really good as Scotty, even though he's really only in the last 30 minutes of the movie. I'm seeing Leonard Nimoy, even though, like I said, I mean, I know enough about Star Trek to know who all these characters are. I didn't just go into this with having a blindfold on to all things Trek beforehand. I know enough that I was able to understand a little bit of the backstory of everything that was going on, but I still felt that there were probably some in-jokes and some little subtleties here that I just didn't get because I'm not a Trekker. I don't know everything about it. And it sort of distanced me a little bit. It was still a really fun movie to watch. And the action is great, and the characters mostly are really, really good. The only negative character in terms of development is the villain, Nero. He's really stereotypical. But, you know, I didn't let the really stereotypical villain in Iron Man make me enjoy the movie less. So I'm not going to do that here either. This is a very minor complaint. And everything else is really, 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 really good. I definitely like the scene where Kirk is marooned on an icy planet, and there's a scene that's very reminiscent of certain scenes in Star Wars movies, which I'm not saying that it's ripping it off. It's just really reminiscent of that, and there are aliens that are sort of reminiscent of the Cloverfield monster. There's even a Slusho reference for J.J. Abrams fans who know that Slusho is this fictional drink brand that's present in Alias, in Lost, in Cloverfield. Essentially, in anything that Abrams touches, there's a Slusho reference. And being an Abrams fan, I just started laughing about the Slusho reference, because it is really funny. And overall, I'm going to give this, it's close to 4 stars, but I really do think that the fact that I'm not a Star Trek fan forces me to sort of give this a 3.5 stars, because I didn't really feel the giddiness that I'm sure I would have felt if I had been a lifelong fan. When I first saw Batman Begins in the theater, I was 16 years old, and being a huge Batman fan since I was a little kid, it just made me joyful inside to see this new awesome version. And I'm sure I would have felt that way if I had been a longtime fan of Star Trek watching this movie, and it would have been so much more impactful. As it stands, it's still a very entertaining, very good movie, and it's probably fighting with Coraline for my number 4 of this year. Because, honestly, I still like Observe and Report more, and I still like Watchmen and Adventureland more than I like Star Trek. But Star Trek is right there. It is really, really, really close with those movies. So overall, definitely this is a recommended movie, especially if you're a fan of Star Trek, because you're going to love it as long as you understand that it's not changing anything from the original series. From my understanding, it just starts an alternate timeline. So, it's only 7 minutes in, so I think I'm actually doing pretty good, considering that I don't really edit these. But next week, I'm probably, tell you what, I think I'll finally make that answer to the questions video that I've been trying to make, but it's just really hard to edit and get it together, because next week I think the only big one is Angels and Demons, and guess what? I'm not seeing that because it looks like crap and I didn't see the first one. So, next week, expect the answer video and maybe some DVD reviews. Great Bob Ross, peace out.